Welcome to the Fashionista Life podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Johnson. If you find yourself here, it may mean that you're looking for courage, clarity, or confidence in some part of your life. I interview experts in business, fashion, and life each week and share strategies for success, motivation, and mindset. If you want to learn more about the Fashionista Life and how I can help you grow your business as an extension of yourself and help transform you into a confident entrepreneur, check out my website at thefashionistalife.com or join our private Facebook group at Clear Confident Female Entrepreneur. Now let's get started. Today we welcome into the studio Tiffany. And Tiffany, I don't want to mess up your last name. How do you say your last name?
It's Wachtler, like
Wachtler.
walking down the street, Wachtler.
Wachtler. All right. Tiffany Wachtler. She's owner and founder of the Kindness Concierge, and her business is the Kindness Concierge, which helps people send a comforting care package, a handwritten note, and encouraging cards to bring some light to your loved one's day, and provides one on one conversations to assist you in tapping into meaningful ways to show how much you care. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you here. I have known you. We were just having this conversation before we went on air. I've known you for, gosh, what, probably 26 years?
Yeah, that's right. I think so.
So
Oh,
Tiffany was
long
actually part of my wedding 22 years ago, and we met as part of a pageant program.
That's so wild. But yes, the good old pageant days.
We were pageant girls back in the day, but I want to talk to you about your business that you created. I think it's such a wonderful um, wonderful business. And how did you get started? Like, what did you do before this, and what led you down the path to start this business?
Sure. So, career wise, I've been in the nonprofit sector for the last 25 years. And so, really working to help fuel important missions for different organizations across the country. And I moved back to Colorado in 2013, maybe. My mom was sick and suffered a stroke shortly thereafter that. And then she got lung cancer, and within 2 months, she passed away. And the one thing that was so prevalent for me is the way people showed up, all the kindness they exhibited, all the ways they held me up and let me fall apart, and just the ways they brought joy and light into situations that were really, really hard. And so when I was thinking about kind of the impact people made, I recognized that some people did it beautifully, boldly, great, did it fabulous. Others did it clumsily, but they tried. And then I learned there was a whole group of people who wanted to be there, but just didn't know how to show up. They were afraid of doing it wrong. They felt kind of paralyzed, having never had a loss like that. And so I dreamed up Kindness Concierge to be a resource to those people who get stuck, who have the heart and want to show up, but just need a little guidance and a little encouragement, because at the end of the day, the gift is showing up. And so
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure there were ways for those folks to show up meaningfully and have a little guidance.
Now, I know before we went on air, you were talking about it started out as a book, right? And some
Yeah,
of our projects start out in one way, and I can attest to this because of something that I just recently created. It started out one way and it
right.
ended up another because it wasn't meant for that other way. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So this book had been just percolating. I thought we must be able to put out ideas of how people can show up. There could be like a little guidebook to help folks and all these fun examples of way people show up beautifully every day. And I just kept putting it off. I was afraid and really intimidated by it. It seemed like also hard for someone who's going through something that's so immediate to go buy my book and read it and implement all these things. And so it started to take a different shape. And I really thought, like, this is probably more powerful as a service than currently as a book. And I gave myself permission to revisit that dream and that goal, but really just had to pivot because it didn't seem like it could be as impactful in the way I dreamed it up initially.
What was that big turning point, though, that made you go, okay, this is not the way it's supposed to be. This is how it's going to be. And then you just started forging forward with that. What was that? Do you remember that moment? Do you remember what was happening in that moment?
I do. I think, I really made a decision to do some things scared. And I felt like when I talked to a friend of mine who says, "How do you always get cards in the mail? How are you able to do the most thoughtful gifts?" She's like, "You should just do it for everyone." And initially I was like, I absolutely don't want to do it for everyone. I do love doing it for people in my life. But it was, she planted this little tiny seed about how could you help those who find it difficult make it easy. And so it started, and I think what happened in her is that I got momentum. This idea, this little seed she planted was just starting to grow. And I thought,
Mhm.
if I pivot now and just ride this excitement and this idea, I could bring it to fruition because I saw myself holding myself back with the book, and the self doubt was there. And this, it felt like I could fail forward a little bit and just try.
Mhm.
Um, I felt like I could just try.
So you talked about, that self-doubt. Have you seen that crop up in other areas of your life, and how have you dealt with it, or did you have strategies that you could deal with that self-doubt? Because we all are faced with that. We all have that in whether it's in our personal life or in our careers.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it definitely has cropped up in other areas of my life, and I think in the work that I do, I worked as a consultant for a long time, and obviously switching different types of companies and different ideas and voices, it was always a learning curve. So I think the way I've really tried to tackle self doubt is to be a curious learner and really accept the things that I don't know and to lean into other people's talents and strengths. And I think there is something in me, and I think it's like my mom's voice saying, like, you can do anything.
Mhm.
I kind of joke that my mom, if I asked her, like, I want to be a rainbow, she'd say, oh, you're so vibrant and colorful, you could be a rainbow. And my dad would be like, does anyone ever be rainbows? Like, what's the path to get there? Like, what's the pay for a rainbow? And so I think there was a little bit of my mom's voice in my shoulder all the time, just saying, like, just be bold.
Mhm.
And my grandmother once said to me, you're a thoroughbred, run your own race. And so I
I love
also
it.
try not to compare myself, and just try and run my own race.
I love that. That is very, very I love that statement. You're a thoroughbred, run your race. That's
Yeah.
great. I was reading a book just recently. It's called 12 and a Half by Gary Vee, and he talked about curiosity being a huge part in being an entrepreneur. And it sounds like that was one of the things that did fuel a lot of your growth and what you're doing.
Absolutely. I think because I never pictured myself as an entrepreneur, I never envisioned it. So I had to be curious. There's so many things I didn't know and don't know. And I think what's been remarkable is the network of women and other solopreneurs around me
Mhm.
who are so anxious to help. I think you really can build a circle of support and be curious and just be inquisitive, asking the questions, because I really had no idea what I didn't know. And I was prepared to make some mistakes, but also asking lots of great questions, just trying
Yeah.
to fuel that excitement with knowledge.
Knowledge is definitely power. That is for certain. Um, as you were creating this business, were there roadblocks that came up that you were just like, "Oh man, how am I going to get past that?" Or, like you said, you had to be curious, you had to figure things out. But were there things where you just thought, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get past this," or was that never really a thought?
I don't know that I had a thought about how I was going to get past something. I think because a lot of the work I do is within the grief space and supporting people who have experienced a loss, there is a sensitivity where I really paused and I thought, like, I'm coming into a space that's very vulnerable. I want to make sure that I'm able to offer and deliver what I say I can. So I think it became a point of like, you just have to do it. You just
Hmm.
have to do it. And I also feel like I really try to pull in more resources. I think the one thing I was certain is that I couldn't do it alone.
Hmm.
So reaching out to different experts in different areas to be resources was really helpful, because otherwise I don't know that I would have taken the first step if I
Hmm.
thought I had to do it by myself.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so much research out there that's been done about entrepreneurs and feeling like they need someone on that, what I in air quotes virtual bench, that
Mhm.
you need to have people behind you
Right.
to feel secure, I guess, if
Yeah.
that's the way to think about it.
And I think I'd never seen anything like this concierge service. I'd never seen anything like it. And so I think also when I saw it working in my personal life and I saw a need, I felt like the need for it outweighed my nervousness, or kind of those roadblocks, because I felt like there was someone on the other end and that it's now bigger than myself.
Mhm. And I know that we've talked, that it's helping people who grieve. Have you thought about, and maybe you have, and maybe it's part of it, And I'm facing this right now because my daughter's headed off to college. And have you thought about, spreading kindness that way? College campuses, like parents can send their children care boxes. I'm just
Absolutely.
saying.
My husband jokes, he's like, "You're really in the business of bad news. Like something bad has to happen for someone to need your help." And so, with the spirit of not being in the business of bad news, I think there really is something beautiful about showing up in all occasions. And there's lots of loss we experience that don't have to do with death, the
Hmm.
loss of a job, loss of your confidence. And so, to your point, yeah, I think it's absolutely fabulous to send someone a hug in a box or a card.
Hmm.
I love snail mail. And so, just that extra moment, my goal is to help someone feel loved today. So while I think it's really important for that to happen in spaces of loss and sorrow, I also think there's something beautiful about just sending out joy in the world. And every week I send cards to people that I handwrite because I just think it's so lovely to have a
Yes.
moment to pause and say, I'm thinking of you.
Exactly. I love it. Well, I'll be calling you, I'll be emailing you saying I need something sent to my daughter.
I am so worried for this next phase of your life. We're going to need to support you and send you a lot of kindness. This is
I
very
know.
exciting.
Somebody said to me, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to call and check up on your daughter, often." I said, "But who's gonna check up on
Yeah.
me?"
I remember those little nuggets when they were born. So it's an emotional ride, but I'll check in on you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is your closet overflowing? Or maybe your kids' closet are as well. Or maybe you want to redecorate your house. If you're wondering what to do with all that stuff that you've accumulated, bring it all to True Fashionistas or even ship it to them for free, and they'll sell your unwanted items for you. They take away all the hassle by doing all the work, and all you have to do is sit back and collect your money. You can reach out to them online at truefashionistas.com, come into the store, or check them out on Facebook or Instagram, and that's truefashionistas.com. All right, everyone, we are back in studio with Tiffany I'm going to say it again, Tiffany Wachtler. Did I say that right?
You did it beautifully.
Tiffany Wachtler, and she owns the business called the Kindness Concierge, and that is basically sending gifts to people, which I love. I love. It's so awesome. We're going to go into something I call speed round. And I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. And
Okay,
I want you to weigh in. I'm very curious on your answers. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. Ambition or talent? What which one of those
Mm.
means more to success?
I think ambition. I think it's important to have drive, and I think you can find everyone's got talents and skills that you can tap into. So I want to say ambition. I think having the drive and the motivation, that fire in your belly.
Ah, I say that line all the time. The fire in your belly because if you don't have it, you can't teach it.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
I think that's got to have a vision and be working towards it.
absolutely. If you're giving advice to someone just starting a business, what would it be?
I would say be courageous. Just be bold and courageous. And I think that so often there are elements of our life where we get paralyzed with fear. And so, as a new business owner, if that vision is in your mind and in your heart, then you are the person to do it. So, be bold.
Do you have a tip for finding boldness or courageousness or being, or, finding courage or your boldness?
I try to operate like a kindergartner. I think like little kids are so fearless and just embrace life with such veracity. So I
Hmm.
try and tap into my younger self who is just so confident and so thrilled to experience things for the first time.
Like Christmas, right?
Yes, exactly.
What have been your greatest achievements as of now?
I love this question. And I'd like to think my greatest achievements are still ahead of me
Hmm.
as a lifelong learner and grower. But I think being a present daughter. I think when my mom was a stroke survivor, her whole life changed, and I had to step into a new role where I was a child becoming the parent, and then she had a very short 2 month battle with lung cancer. And I just am really proud of how I showed up in that space and how we were able to live that portion of her life together. So I think my probably greatest accomplishment was caring and showing up for my mom
Oh,
at the time where I think she needed it the most.
hmm, that's beautiful. It's beautiful that you were able to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I know this is a kind of an off the cuff one as well, but what's a favorite quote that you have or something motivational?
Probably in the same vein, I recently heard the quote, I will speak even when my voice is shaking.
Mm,
And it's really helped me in this process of starting a business. And I'm also a student going to school as a later adult. And so I think like really feeling like I have room for my voice, even if it's not loud.
I'm writing that down because I love it so much. You said you were going back to school. What are you going back to school for?
I am on the path to become a grief counselor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I am very excited to help add conversation to how we show up and how we handle and support folks with grief. I was real ill prepared, and I had the most beautiful counselor that walked alongside me in my journey, and I'm forever thankful. And so, as a legacy to her and my mom, that is going to be my additional career.
I love that because you know what? Life doesn't always turn out how we expect it to or want to, and things fall into our path that we just can't say no to. It's calling to us so
Right.
loudly that we have to go in that direction. Is that kind of how you felt?
Yes, and I felt for something that, the loss of my mom really shifted my universe. And so part of me also wanted to find some light in it and some purpose. And so I love that this is meaningful and helpful. I just
Hmm.
really think it's so important that we add more voices to this space and make people feel seen and less alone.
Hmm. And I'm sure you've heard the saying, "It doesn't happen to you; it happens for you."
Mm,
I mean,
that is very
I just live by that every day because it's so true, right? You're handed something and you can look at it and go, "Well, okay, that's horrible." You
right.
can look at it and find the bad in it, but then, on the flip side, you have to look at it and reframe that and find the positive in it. And this is
Absolutely.
you're going back to school to help other people.
Right, right. And I feel like it's also living out the traits that I loved in my mom. So yeah, there's just a really big through line of being so grateful for the strong woman she made me to be and all the things that she gave me and how do I share those gifts and generously.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you so much for being on today. It was such a beautiful conversation. Tiffany, if our audience wants to get a hold of you, wants to find out how they can send a kindness box to someone, how do they do that?
They can visit thekindnessconcierge.com and visit the website and you can reach me at Tiffany at thekindnessconcierge.com.
Thank you so much again for the beautiful conversation today.
Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate it. It's lovely to chat again.
And thank you to all my friends for joining me here this week and every week here on the Fashionista Life, brought to you by True Fashionistas. If you want a deeper dive, head to my website, thefashionistalife.com, to sign up for my emails, where each week we take a deeper dive into a new topic for you and for small business. Have a fabulous day.